traders, to our midweek technical analysis video. So jumping straight into things here and keeping things short and sweet. Beginning the market this week, we saw a bearish candlestick, which actually makes a difference from the last couple opens from this week. So if you remember, last week we spoke about this candlestick with the big amount of exhaustion that we saw. So price opened up bullish and then we saw a bearish market. The same sort of thing happened here where we saw price open up here. We saw a bullish impulse. We saw price become bullish and then the week ended up being bearish. However, as you can see, and what is quite interesting is you can see that price has in fact became bearish. So it's sort of an opposite of what's happened here. And as you know, like I just spoke about, when market opened bullish, we then saw a bearish market. So if we're keeping in the same pattern, the opposite has happened. And this week thus far, we have seen a bullish market. Let's go ahead and mark up like we normally do with our path. So we had our first higher high created where we then cleared these sort of levels here, indicating to us that we were going to see a bullish flip out of these depths of around 3,250, give or take. And we created our first higher high at 2,390 to 3,293 and our first higher low at 3,275, which is testing as support on previous resistance. Price then came up. We saw price on the lower time frames sort of struggle to break through this main area of 3,313. If you remember from the start of week, the post-week market analysis video, you'll remember that we spoke about 3,313 being the next sort of pivotal point for gold. And as you can see, price ended up staggering. If I go ahead and go down to sort of minute 5 real quick, and I'll just show you what I mean by staggering. As you can see, price ended up coming into this level. We then saw volume drop within each candlestick. Price sort of moved sideways until we got that clean break of structure in this candlestick, and then price moved on. Eventually, let's go by trend line to mark this in actually. Eventually testing as support on previous resistance, where we saw price initially come into this level of 3,313. So let's go back to our hour now. And continue on with our analysis. So as you can see, price ended up staggering at that level. So the first pivotal point where we thought, okay, if price does come to this level, that's the next level that we could expect or could see gold become bearish again. However, price ended up giving us a nice clean break of structure and then creating the first major higher high at this level here. So prior to this video, I have in fact dragged the trend line from this initial. So obviously not last week. This was this area. So from here to obviously here. This was last week, and then the week before last was obviously from here to from here. So this entire week we saw a bearish market. However, at the start of that week, sort of on the Monday when New York session kicked in, we saw price creating higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows consistently enough for us to eventually mark in a trend line. And if you also remember, we spoke about this fake out. So as you know, we did not see a clean break. We saw price move up past this level. However, we didn't get any significant bullish candlesticks open up above this level, and then price ended up coming back down to it. So why is that interesting to us? So that is interesting for a couple reasons. As you can see, the first high that we created was in fact on the same level as this trend line. So the same levels as these highs were created. So as you can see, marking it in here, you can see that price ended up catching this same sort of area as a resistance. So indicating to us that this sort of level that was created from these lower lows and lower highs, or this bearish wedge that we saw, is still actually valid. So this is another sort of confirmation for us to then take into account for the future if we are going to see a bullish continuation for gold. So continuing on, we created that first high, and then as you can see, price sort of has started to consolidate with volume and volatility dropping out of the market. We saw this lower time frame level of around 3,328 tested twice as a support, and then price sort of coming back up, testing this rough area here. If I go ahead and mark a trend line again, this sort of rough area of support here, and then obviously our lower level of support roughly around there. So, and again, as you can see as well, matter of fact, you can see that price ended up testing to the pip on this trend line again. So this trend line is definitely going to be something that we're looking at. Obviously not basing trades off of a line drawn on a chart, but it's definitely going to give us somewhat more information and an extra confirmation to look out for if we are going to anticipate a bullish continuation. So going down to our minute 15 then, I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these drawings just to clear up the chart a little bit. We can go over everything in detail. So what we're currently seeing at this level is we are seeing some sort of consolidating range created. So we have that bottom side support that we just marked in or just spoke about. So this is sort of the bottom side support area, and we will go ahead and mark that here. So we have the two tests of support. We also have this sort of like middle pivotal point, which is obviously a higher time frame point of interest. This sort of area here from anywhere from 3,338 to around 3,333, where we've seen price test within this area a few times as support, indicating to us that that is the sort of secondary level of support prior to this, obviously this like sort of bottom side support. And we have the same sort of thing as a resistance as well. So within this higher time frame point of interest, with the median being around 3,344, we can see price testing this level as resistance multiple times. So the same sort of thing as the bottom side. So if I go ahead and mark in a rectangle, I'll keep it red. So this is going to be sort of our pivotal point for gold in this consolidation area. So a few moves that we could expect. So if we see price continue on bullish from this low here and continue on, we're looking for this first area to be broken through. So obviously taking price out of this pivotal point that we've just marked in and indicated by this red rectangle. If we see price continue, the first point we're looking for is for price to clear this level here, so around 3,348. If we see candlesticks finish above these two levels here at 3,348, a bullish move, that's sort of the first confirmation. So matter of fact, it's the second confirmation. So the first confirmation would be to clear this sort of common resistance point and continue on bullish. The second confirmation would be for price to break past this high here, with candlesticks finishing anywhere above the bodies of these candlesticks. And then the third confirmation for a bullish move will be to see what happens when price comes back up to that trend line level. If we see price break through that trend line level consistently and significantly, we're going to be looking at this next and final point of interest at this high here, where we saw price test that trend line the last time, obviously bar this level or bar this time. That will be the sort of last level of potential resistance. And if price ends up breaking through this level here, we're going to expect price to go somewhere near to that 3,400 area. So they're the confirmations, what we'll be looking for to then anticipate a bullish move. Now let's have a look at a bearish possibility. So a bearish, if we're going to see a bearish move, the things that we want to look for, so it's going to be the same thing, but just in the opposite way. So if we see price continue on bearish from this level, the first level that we're going to be, or the first confirmation that we're going to be taking into account, is this red box, this pivotal point. If we see price break through this level, we're then going to be looking for candlesticks to finish anywhere below these two bodies of this candlestick. And then if price does that, that's our second confirmation. Then our third confirmation will be breaking and clearing these lows here at 3,328, give or take, and then price will most likely continue on bearish to around 3,313, that first place where we saw price stagger after this bullish move from this low here. So with all that being said, that's going to be our midweek technical analysis. Remember, there is still possibilities for some continued consolidation. We could see price come down to this support level, test it again, and then continue on bullish. We could in fact see price continue on bullish from this level here. We could see price test the same trend line again. We could see a fake out where price breaks through the trend line but then comes to test that level of 3,355, this high here, and then continue on bearish. There's a lot of scenarios that we could possibly see. However, obviously we're going to be taking into account all the points of interest, this bottom side support, this middle pivotal point, and that top side resistance, including the trend line as well. So with all that being said, that's going to be our midweek technical analysis video. I hope you have all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.